our second session of the 2021 virtual All USA meeting, and we started in Auroville for us last night, early in their day, and so later in their day, we're so happy to welcome Manoj and Divyanshi to our second session. If all of you can stay muted during the call, and that will help keep background noise from popping in. In the final recording, it records whoever is speaking. So we just ask for a moment pause so that we're moving from one speaker to another. And I must say, I feel all over the world that people, especially young people, are looking for their calling and looking for how they can contribute in this upside down world of so many difficulties that we're facing, and especially in this COVID time when we can go within a little bit more. I always felt that the workshops, as I've followed them via the internet, of Swadharma was so needed, especially by young people trying to navigate. And so I'm so delighted and I'm so interested in hearing about your work. So please welcome Manoj.
Thank you, Julian. I thought of probably to take some lead questions from all of you so that we can be specific about what exactly you would like to know about the way we are running the program. That will help us to be more focused. So if you have specific about the program or anything else, if you can, anyone of you can share, that will be great.
And I encourage people to use the chat. If you look in the lower right-hand corner, there's a chat box where you can ask the questions. There's also an opportunity to raise hands if you want to personally speak out and ask a question. And Manoj, I'd like you to reflect on a little bit this Swadharma of Aurovillians and young Indians who've been coming to you, or whether you've had international students as well, and just a kind of comment on the culture and how you find very often these brilliant young engineers, people who've had very high education, but somehow they're not completely fulfilled. And is that the kind of student that is coming for your program? And everyone, please use the dialogue chat box to ask questions.
Yeah, maybe I can start with the type of youth who come for the program. We had
Okay, we just had a freeze from your side. So hopefully, yeah, now you're coming back in. So just start again, Manoj, please.
Okay. Now, because of the thunder and wind, we have a little bit of connection issues here now. So, so we have the age group is 18 to 30. That is something that we decided from the very beginning. The reason is it is around 21 that process of individualization begins. And when we were launching the program, we were looking at our own journeys and realized that we all began in that early 20s, and it took a long time to really find our path. We were stumbling our way through, and if there was some good guidance, we could have shortened that journey. we could have avoided quite many unnecessary wanderings. So we thought a good contribution will be to this age group to provide support at that critical junction, that quarter life crisis. If we can provide that support, then they don't have to wait till the midlife crisis to relook at life and reorient. So that was the possibility that we saw. This is centered around that age group 21 to 28. And so we took a little bit up and down. So 18 to 30 is the bracket that we held. And in terms of the type of youth who come for these programs, most of them are really those who are finding that, like, as youth, they had these dreams and then they hit upon the reality and then that disappointment. So we had three different types. Those who were even before entering to the university, and those who were in the middle of the university, or those who finished and got into the work. So we had all three categories of people, and predominantly those who finished their graduation and entered and then discovered that life is quite different than what they imagined, and disappointed with what is unfolding and wanted to really make a course correction. And then they had that fire to really ask the questions and willingness to explore. So we look for that element of that fire to search. So in the selection process, this is one of the key things for us. Is this person having that drive to find? Are they really feeling like fish out of water? And if that is there, we take them. And sometimes parents contact, my son wanted to attend this program, and then that is a very clear indication this student is not suitable, because it is still driven by parents. So we look for those self-driven individuals, usually the rebels at home. They are having tough relationship with their parents because they are unwilling to follow the mainstream, and they are looking for alternative and they have no clue. So when we get such a group of youngsters, that creates magic. And it is a 5-week program. And in that program, over the years, we have now done 8 batches. And through the program, our methodology emerged. We figured out what works and what is required. The type of methods we developed our own way. It's like homemade methods of inner work and discovering their values, their own, like how to activate their inner force, or how to connect with that fire and act from that space. So we use the framework of integral yoga, but we don't use the word integral yoga. So we don't refer to Mother and Sri Aurobindo, but underlying framework is that. So how to put them in touch with the psychic being. So essentially, that integral education framework, the psychic, coming in touch with the psychic, kindling that fire and putting them on path, and making them understand how different parts of their being works and how to align them with the psychic and how to purify, how to integrate. So that acts as the basic framework, and how to pour it into action. So we do not have textbooks. We don't ask them to read books. We want them to really engage in life and learn from life. And one of the greatest advantage Auroville provides is that large number of people living their Swadharma, living from their fire. So coming in touch with these people is the key thing. And it is not information transfer. It is the transfer of that living fire of inspiration. That makes the difference. No amount of information can do that. So we don't have any textbooks recommended for them to read. they have to meet people who are living their Swadharma and come in touch with that fire, and through that, write on that inspiration and channelize that energy and take it into action. How do you put it into your own life? So there are various methods that we develop to facilitate this emergence. And tomorrow, our 9th batch is starting. And first time we are doing it online. And that's a big shift for us. We did 8 batches here in Auroville, and COVID changed everything. And 2 batches we had to cancel. And finally, we decided, no, we are going online. So we completely redesigned the program to match their living context wherever they are, and how to leverage that context and how to invoke in that space. And it is quite exciting for us to now shift into this new way of facilitating the same journey to these people. And yeah, I'm excited about it. Would you like to add?
I guess, yeah, only stress like a few points that Manoj probably already mentioned. So one of the things, like, you asked like who's like this ideal student of ours. Like one of the things that we are really, really looking at, this really the central thing that we are really looking at is, does the person have that fire? Is the person really, really willing to walk the path of one's true calling? Or is it like a good idea? Many people have a good idea. It will be good to walk the path of one's passion. But are you really willing to put yourself on the path? Are you really willing to put yourself almost at stake in a certain sense? See, what if through the program, you find out something which is very radically different than what you've invested years studying and training yourself in? Are you really, really willing to even take mini baby steps to actually walk that path? So that's like one of the central things in the selection process also. Is there somewhere a willingness, not necessarily like an enthusiastic willingness that yes, I will walk, but really like that matured willingness that yes, whatever I find, I am ready to surrender to that, and I'm really ready to walk that path. And like, you mentioned, most of these youth are not quite happy with the environment they're in. They're quite brilliant, not necessarily all engineers, but they're generally really, really beautiful souls and really well, a lot of capacity that they hold, but they're not happy. And many of them are really struck with particularly what is happening in the world when it comes to social inequities, when it comes to sustainability related issues, how Mother Earth is being destroyed, and that has slowly kind of begin to bother them. And they are not able to then function as they used to when these issues were not conscious in their mind in the same old system. So then they are really feeling like a fish out of water and really seeing, okay, how can I tap my full potential and how can I begin to contribute and serve? So yeah, and another thing that we clarify from the get-go is that this is not a career counseling program. Because even if you look at Swadharma's schedule, it has a lot of other things, like we have conversations on intimate partner relationships. How does our emotions degenerate? How does our energies degenerate? How do you refine the senses? And it's really a huge gamut of life that we cover in those 5 weeks, which is to facilitate a certain awakening. Swadharma is based on Swabhava, the discovery of who I truly am. And that really is the basis. So some people, they're only looking at that career counseling part. And then that's also not like, it's not like a test we will do and we'll tell you, okay, these are your strengths and, you can follow your strengths like this. But it's really to be able to discover who I truly am and to be able to surrender to the path that emerges from that deeper being in that deeper faith. And another important part of Swadharma has always been that of community. And there is obviously, a curriculum that we've put together. There is that atmosphere of Auroville. There is Mother and Sri Aurobindo and integral yoga that holds the full thing together. But a huge part of the entire course is also community. So over a period of time that we've been really working on is, how do you create a community that creates and nurtures itself? So that really has been one of our key focal territories, because it's only 5 weeks that we can really hold them intensively. We can hold that field that facilitates change and transformation only for 5 weeks. But after that, they're by themselves, whether they are in Auroville or by themselves in their own homes. After 5 weeks, they are by themselves in the world. So the community, that really becomes like a very tight knit space where they are now self organizing their own learning journeys. So even like as we speak right now, we have several groups. We have around 6 self designed learning journeys, which is courses created by our own students for themselves, that they are themselves facilitating. They're holding the sharing circles, they're holding practices, they're inviting speakers, there's a start date to the course, there's an end date to the course. So there is a lot of alumna courses that are emerging for us. And that's an incredibly important part of that journey, the community aspect of Swadharma, to really also find people of your tribe, so as to speak. No, there are not a lot of people with whom you can just share, this is happening to me, or what am I going through, and the fact that, I am trying to find my true calling, and that other concerns such as money, everything is secondary. This is the primary thing. So you have a community which is there to listen to you, which is there to hold space for you, which is really there for your own progress. So that's another very important part that is really emerging, not just in Swadharma, in our entirety of the work, which is that of all the way we're beginning to really see all our programs, Svadhyaya, Prayoga, Savitri painting, Swadharma, all of them are really like induction programs or orientation programs. The real thing begins after the program ends. And the real thing really begins in terms of how the community self-organizes, shapes itself, grows, learns, and really become the youth that never ages, really begin to tread the path of unending education. So yeah, these were just some of the thoughts that were coming to me. Would really love to hear from you guys as to what do you want to know more about, so we can talk about that.
Yeah, we tell them this is only an initiation, it's a lifelong journey. And we are building a community of closely knit people who are traveling together. So the course is only an entry point, just the beginning. And we have 4 different courses through which people are entering, and now they are all merging.
Yeah, in the beginning, it's like when you're trying to find your Swadharma or your purpose, it's a thing out there and you want to reach there. And slowly in that process, you find that the thing is not just out there, it's a living thing in the moment. And it evolves and one accesses it in the moment. And that's really becoming then the thread, because it's not about, which is the field in which I have to contribute, because that can evolve, and particularly in 21st century, in the way that things and the pace at which things are evolving, it's not so much about, this particular field, as much as it is about coming alive in one's full potential and being able to follow that trail that emerges from one's inner being and being prepared for that. Because, there is on one hand this outer external world which is evolving and changing at a very, very fast rate. And on the other hand, a growing confusion, a growing inability to be connected and be in touch. So yeah, these two things together. And that really requires like a lifelong orientation, that yes, this is not just a 5-week thing. After 5 weeks, we tell them that, we were kidding. It's actually lifelong.
There is no return ticket. It's you're set on a journey, and it takes them quite some time to actually take seriously that one thing is having purpose and to know the path, but your daily practice, discipline, and it understanding the role of discipline and developing that ability to direct your energy, that takes time. That knowledge becoming force in life, that kindling of that fire, this is where it, like often, like 1 year, 1.5 years, that's when they really begins to get it. And like we had a young girl who came midway her engineering, she had dropped, took a 1 year off, incredibly creative, talented in so many different fields and full of energy, but getting scattered all over the place. And after the course, she realized the needs to really concentrate all her energies. So she was really disciplining, and it has taken her nearly 1.5 years now to really regularly get up in the morning at 4 o'clock and do her daily practices and build up, and reached a point where now she designed her own transformational method, and she's teaching other youth. And she's at the same time working with corporates as well as with the NGOs. But it has taken her nearly 1.5 to 2 years of training, a very intense training. And once they get it, they really go for it. And it is our alumni who are actually building up the community. And even Swadharma, all carried primarily by the people who went through the program, one or other program. They hold the whole thing.
Manoj, you have the chat open, and Bauman has raised his hand. So maybe Bauman, you could unmute and ask your question.
Thank you. I'm really delighted to hear, the connections that you've made between all these different key concepts. I've worked with these ideas for a long time, of course, at a graduate school level. And so the basic idea of the connection with the psychic being and, the fire and all of that you said. I'm not going to repeat that. One interesting difference has been that we've had a lot of older people who, during their midlife, they begin to feel that they need to get in touch with their true path in life. And so a lot of our students in the past have been in their 40s and 50s, and one of the advantages of that is that, they've become adults, they've done what they're supposed to be doing, and they have money, and they have, independence in many different ways. So they're in a position to actually do that. So just one thing before I forget, I find the concepts that you're summarizing here at the core of integral education, actually, and at the core of integral psychology. So I think the implications are much wider than the 5-week program, for example. But regarding your program and the age group that you're working with, my question is, how do younger people, this generation of between 20 and 30 now is a new developmental psychology age group that people are considering to add in, because in the past there was young adulthood, but many people in the world in their mid-20s are married or having jobs, and they're already in, you know, full-blown adult life. But now, you know, these last 2 or 3 generations, it's taken them forever to get to that, you know, responsible adulthood period. And a lot of them are taking time exploring, you know, and many are still dependent on their parents here in the United States, you know. So there's just a shift in the stages of development that's being worked in. So what is being added is this age group that you're talking about. Now, how do they resolve while they're searching naturally and intuitively for their Swadharma? How do they resolve the pressures of the external world, getting a job, parental pressures, all the ego structures, social cultural pressures that shapes the outer being, as opposed to the inner forces? And I know that you said that you pick people that are ready for that. So I know that you're not going to deal with a lot of resistance and so on, but I still think there would be some fundamental challenge there for them to say, well, how am I going to make a living? You know, by the way, you know, there's more I can say, but I'll stop here because I just love this whole thing, and just want to hear more about it from you today.
So, few things that come to me is, so one, after the 5 weeks get over, even though in the beginning, while we are doing the selection process, interview, induction, we are very, it's very important for us that yes, this fire is honored and we're taking the right kind of people. But after the 5 weeks are over, there is no pressure to now leave your job, leave the mainstream studies, just, you know, start walking your own path. Nothing like that. We completely understand that for different people, it will be very different paths. And some people, after doing this 5-week intensive process, will probably just go back to what they were doing and repeat that same thing for the next 2 to 3 years. It may take some time for some people to understand and realize. There are certain students who just after the course, they are ready, they're ripe, you know, it's just like the instrument is ripe and now it's filled and it's ready to go. So there are certain people who just after the course is over are able to make radical choices and from the get-go start walking. But that's just one part of the crew. There are plenty of others who would probably go back and realize 6 months down the line, oh, you know, all that learning that they had in 5 away, they're probably going to go back and then come. And another big support which is there is that of community. So even after the program is over, they are very closely in touch with the community. They're almost every week having sharing circles. Almost every year, there are 3 to 4 alumni courses being organized, which are long-term learning journeys. So they're really in touch with other people who are also figuring out the same things. Parental pressure, the pressure to earn money. Money is a big thing, livelihood, to settle down, and they're all going. And also, even if people come from a relatively well-off background, then there is this huge thing about social media and distraction. There's a lot of that this generation is dealing with. But having that support of community who's trying to find out this thing, you know, together, and also what Manoj mentioned as practices. So now what we have also beginning to emerge is things like triads. So by triads, I mean people who are interested in, say, people want to chant Gita together. They don't need to look for a course. They don't need to look for an instructor. They just come together, fix hours, and they chant Gita together. And then they're grouped together, and anybody from the community can move into that triad. So many of these practices are now happening in little triads that once again keep getting them anchored. And yeah, it begins with that quest of, what do I do with my life? But then it becomes like a sustainable journey of sadhana. And then they realize, okay, it takes time to really, because your outer harmonization with your outer action can only happen to the extent there has been an inner integration and an inner harmonization. So it takes some time for them to figure that out. And once they figure that out, then they start working on that. So it's a fairly slow process for many people, and we are fine and very okay with that as mentors. Even after 2 years, 3 years, 4 years of them passing away, they're still very well in touch with us. And many of them are also volunteering with us. And what happens when they're volunteering, it's not just about work. What happens when they're volunteering and working close together, they're close to people who are living their Swadharma. So they are in that energy field. And somewhere being a part of just being near people who've taken such radical choices in life and being like, no, I want to live my passion, want to live my true calling. And who have had that courage to say that, okay, even if I have to, live on the streets, come what may, this is important for me to follow my heart, and have put things at stake. So those examples are now emerging in the community, people who are putting things in stake. And it's through being near to those examples. We listen about those examples as a part of a TED talk is another thing. But when you realize, oh, three of my friends did it, it becomes a part of your intimate circle. Then it's no longer, oh, those beautiful people on YouTube and TED Talks who do these amazing things and you get motivated, but that motivation remains till the mind. Here you see, okay, this girl pretty much like me, coming from a similar background, if she can take a choice like that, then maybe I can also make a choice like that. We also, by the way, had one cohort of Swadharma Plus, where we experimented with the middle age group also. So we had one cohort. We never did that cohort again. We had one experience of that cohort. And what we found through the experience of that course was that probably something specially designed for that cohort is needed, a very specialized curricula which tailors to their need. And we felt that that's not the direction in which we wanted to go towards, so we didn't kind of carry it forward. But one of the things that we also felt with that cohort, the advantage with this younger group is they are very willing to learn. And they're not so well formed in their ideas and their thoughts. They may be very, through debating societies and very assertive and everything, but they are still open to change, and they're not so well formed. And not just in ideas, but also in habits. Like if you've complained for 40 years in your life, it's a big habit. If you've complained for 21 years, it's a lesser formed habit, right? And it's more easier to kind of mold that. So that was one thing that we do find with these people. And having said that, for Swadharma is our only course which has an age bracket. We have all the other courses in which, the last course we had an 83-year-old lady and a 14-year-old girl together. So in most of the courses, the biological, chronological age, honestly, is secondary. It's the inner fire. It's the age of the soul, the eternal soul that matters more than the age of the body, right? And it's only in Swadharma that we have this age thing. But even in Swadharma, it's like there are so many of these exceptions that are pushing the boundaries. This time in Swadharma, that is beginning tomorrow, we have 4 people above 30. And then we have had people, below 18 as well. They were brilliant school children. The way they were developed in the school itself was so amazing, so beautiful. One could not, at that age, what they're thinking and, how can I contribute, and the way their thought process is. A lot of us were not thinking about any of that at that time in school, but you're getting like these amazing school children, So we have an age group, But like to every rule, there's an exception. We're also very open to those exceptions, that to really see if there is a fire and the person is willing to consecrate, then the age rule doesn't apply. The age rule applies, okay, 90% of the time it applies, but then there is always like that space for exception. Do you like to add something?
Yeah, maybe I can also touch upon some of the questions in the chat box. One is regarding the gender balance. It's more or less equal, with probably tilt towards
more women.
More women. And we do not have Aurovillians in Swadharma, but other courses it is open. We do have, but very few. And in terms of
we are 20.
Yeah,
That's right.
And in terms of training, we are training our own alumni to pick up, because they become facilitators. Like what it means to hold space for growth for others. And that becomes their own way of accelerating their personal journey. Because when they take up responsibility and hold, and through that, they are able to accelerate their growth. So we have our own alumni getting trained in holding spaces, conducting programs or sessions. So that's one way we are building this up.
And the way also that we are training, what we also realized over a period of time, the best way to train is to work together. Because this entire thing of, I will tell you this is how to do things, what we really realized is it's in practically working together that real training happens. So all these alumni courses that I'm talking about, this is training going on. This is practically the training ground. This is the place where they're learning, how do you hold a sharing circle? How do you hold a group of people together over a period of time? And how do you hold the energy of a group? Many of these subtle things, it doesn't come necessarily by talking to them about, this is how we hold it energetically. It doesn't work so much as by actually doing it. And having said that, this year we started with 19 of our alumni a course called Holding Capacity, something like a Karma Yoga lab. All these 19 people are holding different groups in our community. So somebody is holding like a learning journey together, somebody is holding a project together. They're all having responsibilities. So we started this group about like 3 months ago, and with them we are working and nurturing their holding capacity. How do you hold things in action? How do you hold something on ground? How do you hold the fort on ground? How do you hold something psychologically in consciousness? Then how do you hold something in intention spiritually? So that's another work which is underway and emerging. Really want student to experiment. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, in terms of experiencing Auroville, practically except Swadharma, everyone else is in their own place. Everything else is online course. Swadharma is the only course that we had happening in Auroville, and our experience is that the impact and the transformation possible is same or even better, because they are in their own context. What they internalize, it's very easy compared to those who come here to take it forward. Those who come here, they have this intense inspiration, but when they go back, they have to hit with that reality out there and readjust, and they spend a lot of time to figure things out. Whereas when we train people in their own context, it is easy for them to integrate and build from where they are.
So APT is a part of the curriculum, even a part of the online curriculum. And I also wanted to touch a bit about experiencing Auroville as an integral part of the work. So yes, across 8 cohorts, a major part of the course was really site visits, really going to Krishna's farm and having that cooking workshop with him, really, having the barefoot walk in the forests of Auroville. These were incredibly important experiences in Auroville that really grounded the program. Now, the way we are seeing it now that, we are taking it online, so the way I see it is, it's kind of incomparable. I don't necessarily see online as anything inferior or superior. It's just another medium. And like Manoj mentioned, in online, what we then concentrate on making a sustainable lifestyle habit shift within their context. So one of the challenges that we were facing with people coming to Auroville was two major challenges that actually online helps us address. One challenge was people came to Auroville, and Auroville is a very intense energy field. So even, if you're used to getting up at 11 a.m., you come here very naturally, you're waking up at 6 a.m. Simple little things in life very naturally happens just because of the atmosphere that Auroville carries. So one of the challenges that our students faced was they came to Pondicherry and Auroville, and it's all very hunky-dory here. It's all very, very good. And then they would go back to Bangalore, Delhi, France, UK, and then they are really like, why is this not happening here? Why am I, why when in Auroville I could just get up at 5:30 a.m. without that effort? Why is it not happening here? So it was difficult for them, what they built up in Auroville, to carry it forward in their environment. So one advantage with people being in their context is you build it from your own environment. The other challenge that we were facing is the community did not really stay in touch proactively after the course when the course was on campus. There were obviously those lifelong one-on-one friendships that you built, but the community as a whole of coming together, journeying together, having a collective learning journey, self-organizing a collective learning journey, that was not happening because people did not really realize the power of using technology and trusting it to have a meaningful, deep experience, even as the medium is online. So one of the biggest shifts that we see of turning it online is that community building post-program is much higher, and then sustainable habit shift, lifestyle shift, while people they are in their own context, that's much higher. Now, having said that, even the online Swadharma has a lot of these TED Talks and videos of Krishna, of wasteless, of eco-service, of videos shot of Sheetal, Lalit, and we've done like a lot of video shooting and are inviting some of the people to talk about how they are living their Swadharma. So yeah, to me, like the two are kind of incomparable, but we also see, and particularly in Swadharma, we really encourage after the course is over, particularly for your volunteering and internship, come down to Auroville and work here, because it is really in working and contributing towards Auroville that you really, really grow. That's the real time when you really begin to grow. Okay, yes, time check. I think yeah, we are good.
I so much appreciate this work, and I think that the many people who've come all over the world, whether it's coming to the Earth Institute or for, the focus has been on appropriate technology to build a ferrocement biogas at CSR. And certainly people are motivated to come for pizza and for commerce, but to begin this inner journey and to really see how, Bauman is very familiar with the Esalen Institute, and tomorrow we'll have Robert McDermott from the California Institute for Integral Studies, these institutions that have given a focus on inner growth and self-discovery and the skills that have come because they are, you talk a lot about practice, and to give the tools for people to practice and continue their journey within. And I especially like the fact that your alumni are gathering and having a sense of community, because even now with our online virtual gathering, we have a sense of community, and many of us have known each other for years, and then there are also new friends, and it's such an inspiration to find our sangha. And I do want, if there are any other questions, if anyone wants to raise their hand to make a closing remark, or please do so, and then we'll have a 5-minute break before we begin our next session with Martha. So there is this raise hand function, or if you just want to unmute and ask a question, please go ahead.
No question. It's thank you. It's absolutely fascinating. And I'm really, really happy to hear.
I just wanted to add one thing on this women empowerment question that I think Julian has asked. It's quite, this time when we were making the schedule for Swadharma, one thing that really struck me, we were looking at, probably a young girl in this particular field whom we can really present as a role model and an example of living one's true calling. And we were like a group of like 4 or 5 people trying to think. And there were so many men that came to our head, but not a single woman. It really, I went back and I was like, how can I not, like, I come from a women's college. How can I not like think of a woman here, And we wanted like a woman of the same capacity to come and fill this particular role and to come for this particular session. Eventually, of course, we got that girl, we got that woman that we were looking for. But it really hit me that, oh my God, I had to think so much to arrive here. And on the other hand, when I'm looking at most of the people who are taking responsibility in our community very naturally, without any male-female thing from our end, most of them are women. And generally, like Manoj said, even the gender balance tends to tilt, like the most of the applicants across courses are women. So that's also very, very heartwarming to see that, without saying anything about reservation for women or anything like that, somewhat our courses are attracting a lot of women. And a lot of women are searching for what they're searching for. And it's very, very heartwarming. We have a lot of women taking responsibility, our alumni communities. And having said that, like a lot of also warm, gentle, caring men taking responsibility too. So it's like really like a community that is emerging around.
Well, thank you both so much. And we look forward to hearing more, and perhaps Swadharma will go on the road someday, and you can have a workshop here at Madhugiri. I think we would love that to happen as we emerge out of this inward-looking time of the pandemic times, and take advantage of the gift. Certainly, many people are traumatized and suffering with this, and we haven't touched on it, but I think your work is crucial to help us find a better way coming out of the really post-traumatic stress of the pandemic. And I think that that's something you will be able to offer many people in India who have been traumatized by the loss of loved ones and just the stress of the lockdowns and so on. I think we don't understand the consequences psychologically of what we've gone through as a culture and as a planet, and certainly feeling our oneness. So Thank you both. We'll just take a pause. I'm going to stop the recording, and then we'll start it again when everyone has arrived for the next course with Martha Orton.